to get going.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very pleased to be with you today on Treaty 4 territory and homelands of the Métis people. Thank you all for joining us for this important event. My name is Toby Strohan, and I serve as the Associate Vice President, Student Services here at Saskatchewan Polytechnic, and I'll be your host today. I'd like to let you know that event photos will be taken and shared on social media, and also that the event is being live streamed today for others to enjoy as well. I'd like to recognize the special guests who have joined us for today's event, and I'll introduce them and ask that you hold your applause until everyone has been introduced. Mr. Warren Mickelson, MLA for Moose Jaw North, who is here on behalf of the Honourable Minister Tina Beaudry-Miller, Ministry of Advanced Education. His Worship Fraser Tomley, Mayor of Moose Jaw, and it's his birthday today. Welcome.
Happy birthday.
And perhaps we'll sing later. Dr. Larry Rosia, President and CEO, Saskatchewan Polytechnic. Dr. Ann Neufeld, representing Annie's Friends Foundation and former Provost and Vice President Academic for Saskatchewan Polytechnic. Chirag Patel, Sask Polytech Students Association, Vice President of Finance and Internal Operations. And Sam Fiorella, co-founder of the Lucas Fiorella Friendship Bench. The Friendship Bench organization was launched in 2015 in memory of Lucas Fiorella. Lucas was a Canadian student who, after suffering from depression for a number of years, took his own life in October of 2014. Following his passing, Lucas's family learned how he had suffered with depression in silence. However, they also learned of the ways Lucas would reach out to classmates who he sensed were suffering from anxiety and depression. And each conversation started with hello. The Friendship Bench and the Yellow is for Hello campaign continue that conversation. Joining us today are Marilyn McLean and Marissa Landry-Dixon, who are personal counselors on the Moose Jaw campus. Would you please stand? Our counselors are here today to provide support, and if you are feeling the need for support, please see them anytime during the event or after. Thank you for being here. To begin today's program, I would like to introduce MLA Mickelson to bring greetings on behalf of the Minister of Advanced Education, the Honourable Tina Beaudry-Miller, and the Government of Saskatchewan.
Well, thank you and good afternoon. I'm pleased to be here on behalf of the Right Honourable Premier Scott Moe and the Advanced Education Minister Tina Beaudry-Miller and the Government of Saskatchewan. Your Worship, happy birthday. Sam Fiorella, Ann Neufeld, Chirag Patel, and Dr. Larry Rosia. Welcome to you all. It's always nice to see a delegation come down from Saskatoon. I keep telling them that their money is worth, the exchange rate is the same as it is here, so they can feel free to spend as much as you like and support our economy. You know, this is a day of significant importance for Saskatchewan Polytechnic. The introduction of these new yellow friendship benches provide a positive space for students to talk openly about concerns regarding mental health. Mental health is really becoming more prevalent in our society, and the more we become aware of mental health, the more that we realize there is so much more that we need to learn. The human mind is very complex. 1 in 5 people in Saskatchewan are directly affected by mental health issues. Indirectly, it affects many more, like parents and children, family members, spouses and caregivers. Those people and other friends often feel the impact. When one is suffering, it affects a multitude of others all around them. Sometimes things don't appear as we often think they should, but that's okay. We have to be able to talk about these things without fear or awkwardness. And these yellow benches provide a place of understanding and a safe place to converse. So thank you to Sask Polytechnic and the yellow benches for placing these benches in campuses in Moose Jaw here, in Prince Albert, and in Saskatoon. We, as a community, have a responsibility to raise awareness of mental health issues and to reduce the stigmatism associated with mental illness. These yellow benches will help raise awareness for all of us and provide comfort for those who are in need. Thank you, and God bless Sask Polytechnic and the Yellow Bench program.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mickelson. I'll now invite His Worship Mayor Fraser Tolmie, to bring greetings on behalf of the City of Moose Jaw.
Good afternoon, everybody, and I'd like to recognize that we are on Treaty 4 territory and traditional homelands of the Métis. I'd like to also recognize MLA Mitchelson and Dr. Larry Rosia and Mr. Fiorella and distinguished guests here. I have a speech, but as I was sitting here just for a few minutes, I felt convicted to open up myself and share a little bit about my childhood. I grew up in a home where my mother suffered from depression, a single-parent home, and often she had no one to talk to about the challenges she was facing. I've had friends that have felt that they had no other choice. And today I feel like we're breaking through. Something I've always believed, and I've said previously, that we are better together. Too often, people can feel like they're on an island, left to solve their problems on their own. Whether it's pride, fear of something else, too many of us don't want to admit it. We may be struggling emotionally, and some may need help, even those people that are closest to us. We know the conversation around mental health is changing. I applaud Saskatchewan Polytechnic in Moose Jaw for joining the Yellow Bench initiative in an effort to facilitate more conversations and improve the mental health of our residents. Together, we can do better and get better. And I want to say thank you for giving me this opportunity to be able to open up and share. God bless you.
Thank you very much for those words. And now I'd like to welcome Sam Fiorella, co-founder of the Lucas Fiorella Friendship Bench and the Yellow is for Hello campaign. Following the passing of his son, Sam has worked to continue Lucas's legacy. He is a husband, father, friend, and advocate. He joins us today to spread awareness and education about youth depression and mental health issues. Please join me in welcoming Sam.
All right, I have to put a little timer on myself here. People, they told me to do that because they've heard me speak before. And they know that when I start talking about this subject in particular, I have a tendency to go on for an hour and a half. So I've been given a short window here today. And just for the record, I've done my part to support the economy. So that's a challenge to the rest of you that have come in from out of town. I have to start this talk with a little story about my son, because it was Lucas that really started this. I get a lot of credit. I get a lot of interview requests. My face gets in the newspaper and on social media quite a bit. But the reality is, before we lost our son and before we learned of his acts of kindness and what he suffered, I had no clue about mental illness, about mental health. I was ignorant. I never once had a conversation with my son about mental illness or his own mental health, or that of my own for that matter. As it turns out, I've learned since that I've been suffering with bouts of mild depression throughout my entire life. Didn't know what it was. I couldn't put a name to it. So all of this hit home when we lost my son. So as you heard from Toby's introduction, we lost my son to suicide when he was in his second year of university. He left us some notes, which I'm quite grateful for, because it explained what he had been going through and how he got to the point where he felt he had no other alternative. He shared his pain and how deep it was and how he could not talk to anybody about it. So Lucas was very much like others in this situation where his immediate family, his closest friends, his girlfriend, his professors, nobody saw any signs of depression on him. In fact, outwardly, he was the kid that everybody went to when they needed a hug, when they were in trouble. And the stories that we heard immediately after his death, in fact, the first story came to us right at his funeral. My wife and daughter and I were standing there, and somebody came to us and told us a story that really affected us. And we got about a dozen of these stories in the week after his death. And every one of these stories had something to do with somebody wanting to take their life, somebody about to drop out of school, somebody leaving the dormitories to go back home, somebody was about to OD on something. We had all of these stories that from different people who didn't know each other. And every one of them said to me how ironic that Lucas suffered and took his own life when it was he who kept me in school, when it was he who stopped me from dropping out, or when it was he who stopped me from taking my own life. And that one story there in particular is what got this entire program going. Two of my friends, Robert Clark, Danny Brown, and I were talking, and I was sharing the stories that my wife and daughter and I were told of what Lucas had done and the people that he had saved. And we thought, it's a shame that he's no longer here to keep saying hello. Because as Toby said, all of these people independently said to us, he just came up and said hello. And that started a conversation. In some cases, they were friends. In other cases, they were just acquaintances. But in every case, he started a conversation with a simple hello, and that conversation led to somebody still being alive today, led to somebody graduating, being in school today, people doing well. And so this program was really designed around that. It got me and my wife, and even my daughter, who's really become involved in this project with us, it got us thinking, why is it that more people don't say hello? Why is it that I knew nothing about him or nothing about the signs that maybe could have prevented me, or not prevented me from being ignorant, but maybe prevented him from taking his life? Had I seen something? Had I been better educated? Why is it that he could not speak? And so I started traveling the country, not only talking to his university and the counselors and the professors that he had there and his friends, but I've been speaking to students across this country. I've gone back and forth, coast to coast, a number of times over the last 4 years and spoken in front of tens of thousands of students and spoken directly to thousands. And I've learned something. Today, no matter how many support services we make available to them as adults, right? And I'm looking at the sign here. I know that Saskatchewan Polytech offers a lot of support services, right? You can see it right there, support services provided by the SPCA, and you got dental, medical, student advocates, legal, mail services, mental health, physical health. You've got all of this, and that's wonderful. My son at his university had all of those same services, but didn't take advantage of them. So why was that? Why is it that no matter how many of these services we make available, no matter how many dollars we throw at it, students are still dying in record numbers by suicide? Suicide is the second leading cause of death amongst Canadians between the ages of 14 and 24, according to the Canadian Mental Health Association. Second leading cause of death. Not cancer, not leukemia, not all the terrible diseases that we rightly raise money for and go on charity runs and charity walks for. Suicide takes more Canadian lives in that cohort than any other disease. So why is it that we're not talking about it? And what I've discovered in talking to all the students is that they don't want to be lectured to, because they believe truly that we as adults, we as parents, we as faculty, we as counselors do not understand their plight. And at first, I questioned that, because I, like many of you adults, older adults like myself in the room, have said to your kids when they've complained about having to take a 10-minute drive to school, or not having a car to drive themselves to school at 16, I pulled out when I was your age, I used to have to walk up a hill, barefoot, in the snow, fighting off tigers to get to school. And to a degree, that was correct. What I didn't discover, what I didn't know at the time that I have since discovered, is that while my life, and I think that many in my generation, I'm the last of the boomers, was in fact maybe physically difficult, especially for those of us that are first-generation Canadians whose parents are immigrants to this country. It was physically difficult. Today, kids have a different set of circumstances around them. The world around them is completely different. The generation growing up today, the statistics show, have more money, have more access to information, but that isn't necessarily a good thing. In fact, while they may have a cushier life for the most part, that is a generalization, but according to the statistics, for the most part, getting a job, getting into university, the likelihood of success, at least in comparison to the success that we have faced, is not the same. For us, it was a straight line. Put your head down, work hard, graduate, you get a BA, you get a decent job, you work hard, you get to be a director, you work a little harder, and by the time you retire, you're a vice president with money. And thus, I've just explained the boomer generation to you. The reality, though, kids today that's been told to them, do this, do this, do this, do this. In fact, I myself told my son when he was in high school, you don't need to get a job. You've got one job, right? I had to work 3 jobs just to keep us in the school, just to help put food on the table, help pay for my own expenses. You don't need to do that. All you need to do is get a good job, get a degree, and that's all you need to do. The reality, though, that's not enough. Getting into university is very, very difficult. Getting into any post-secondary institution today in Canada is increasingly difficult. Getting a job with just a BA is very difficult. What universities and colleges and polytechnics are telling me is that so many kids are coming back now for postgraduate work just because they've graduated, they can't get a job. I myself know 2 people with master's degrees that are still working in a retail job that they had before they started school because they can't get a job. The landscape has changed. We have a lot more foreign students now, shrinking funds for universities and colleges. And so, obviously, there's less space for Canadians, and it costs more. It's a business. This is the reality. It's not going to change. Cost of living is increasing at an incredible rate compared to the wages that we're able to earn. So for them, they've been ingrained. What I've learned is that they've seen success as point A to point B being a straight line, what we've told them it's going to be. The reality that they're facing is completely different. And this, of course, has been exacerbated by social media. Another external factor weighing down not just on them, but on all of us. My research over the last 4 years, I've discovered something. I started charting the number of suicides and reported cases of anxiety and depression in North America. Because I wondered, are we just talking about it more because of the internet and more access to information? Has it always been the case? Well, the reality is, up until about 2010, 2011, the number of suicides in this country were going down. Slowly, but they were going down over about a 15, 20-year period. And then around the period of 2010 to 2012, if you charted it all like I did, you see this hockey stick. And it just jumps, and it's been going up and up and up every year in dramatic fashion, to the point where it's becoming an epidemic. A lot of the universities in particular that I speak to are telling me that they're losing 2 students a week in some cases. These numbers aren't reported because there still is a stigma around that, because a lot of the families, the parents of these children, do not want to talk about it. They refuse to allow the school to report it that way. But of course, that's hurting us because we're not talking about it. So why is it that we've had this dramatic increase over the last years? Well, there's a lot of factors, some of which I've already introduced. Difficulty of getting a job, difficulty of getting into university, the increase in student debt. There's a lot of external factors, societal, that is playing on our kids today that they're not trained to deal with yet. And then there's social media. Well, around that time, I just referenced, around 2010, there was an increase, and it's been going up and up. Well, guess what happened in that time period? Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat. They were all launched in a 4-year period at that point. And since in the years, immediately the years after their launch, we've started to see an increase in depression, anxiety, and suicides. And so while I'm not blaming social media, it is definitely one of the additional factors that science is now proving, the negative correlation between time spent on social media and your negative mental health. It is yet another factor that our kids have to deal with. And so this program is designed to help educate. Part of what I do when I go and deliver workshops to students and parent groups in particular across Canada is this, is I educate them that our kids today are not stupider. They're not snowflakes, as a lot of people in the media like to claim. It's not just a matter of pulling up their socks and working hard like we were told to do and we did. We were given the right resiliency toolkit and education by our parents for our time, and it was right for us. Today, kids need a different set of resiliency tools to face what they are encountering. And that's part of what I'm challenging everybody to do here today, and what this program intends to do. What we've discovered with this program is that what Lucas was doing, and the reason that it worked, is because it was peer-to-peer conversation. It wasn't about me or a clinician advocating, or me or a clinician lecturing. It was about students making it okay for other students to talk about mental health and accepting that what they're going through and what they're saying is normal. So wherever we've placed this program, schools where they're willing to share information with me are telling me that they're seeing a dramatic increase in the number of kids seeking help after the Yellow is for Hello program has been put into the secondary or post-secondary institution. And the reason for that, I've been told in every case, is because students are saying, well, I now feel it's okay to talk about it. And counselors frustrated, saying, well, we've been telling you this for years. He goes, yeah, but now Bob and Jimmy and Allison told me that it's okay, because they're talking about it. And so the Yellow is for Hello program is just that. The bench is not a place where you go if you're having a problem and you need help, although there is a role for that, and I'll get to that in a second. This is really a bench designed to be a symbol, to be a call to action to the students of this school, current and future, as well as to the faculty and parents and community members that share this space. When you see the bench, whether you're sitting on it having ice cream, eating your lunch, listening to music, chatting with friends, doing whatever you do with your friends, think, hello. Yellow is for hello. And even if you're not sitting on it, when you're walking by and you see that bright yellow, you think, yellow is for hello. Did I say hello to somebody today? Am I open to a hello? And how will I respond if somebody says hello to me? Will I speak about how I'm feeling? Will I make it okay for that person to talk about what they're experiencing, knowing that feeling depressed is completely normal? Not talking about it, that's what's not normal. And so this bench and the whole Yellow is for Hello program is dedicated to the students of this school, current and future, in our hope, on behalf of my wife, Susan, my daughter, Vanessa, and our entire organization, with our hope that it will inspire many, many hellos, and that the students of this school will feel okay talking about what they're feeling and seek the help that they need, and build the resiliency toolkits that the school does make available. I hope that this will help them get that help, have those conversations, so that we can save some lives here in Saskatchewan. Now, before we unveil the bench, which is what I'd like to do now, so I'd like to call up Dr. Rosia, Dr. Neufeld, and Chirac, from the student government to step up. I do want to thank Dr. Neufeld specifically. Dr. Neufeld. This effort is not easy. This is our 50th bench across the country. We are literally from coast to coast on each ocean and all points in between now, and we're growing, but it takes an incredible amount of resources to make this happen, not just the bench and these events, but of course all the counseling services, all the support services, all the promotion that we try and do. And so it requires money, basically, to help us. We are all volunteers, so none of us get paid to do this work, but there's a lot of operational costs. And so we need people like Dr. Ann Neufeld, who's invested a fair amount of money into this program in order for the 3 campuses here at Saskatchewan Polytech to have this. And so this is a plaque that is going to be placed on the wall over the bench, Dr. Neufeld, just to recognize your generosity and your support of the student mental health here in this camp. So I'd like to put this over the bench right now and invite you all to come. In the spirit of saying hello, I would love it if we could do a countdown, 3, 2, 1, and have everybody yell hello as we unveil this bench. So, 3, 2, 1. Hello!
Terrific. Thank you, Sam. Last year, Saskatchewan Polytechnic installed the first friendship bench in the province at our Regina campus. And through the generosity and support of Dr. Ann Neufeld, we are able to unveil friendship benches in our other 3 campus cities today and tomorrow. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Ann Neufeld, representing Annie's Friends Foundation, the former Provost and Vice President Academic for Sask Polytech, and a former close colleague of many of us and of mine, Dr. Neufeld.
So, hey, hello. It's great to be back on the Moose Jaw campus for this terrific event, and I am really glad that all of you are here. It's great to see so many familiar, friendly faces. So you're here, and now I'll tell you a little bit about why I'm here. So those of you who know me a bit know that I've been a strong mental health advocate for almost as long as I can remember. And when you think about it, there's so many experiences and foundational things that happen in your life. But I want to share one with all of you that I think is particularly appropriate because it's from my student days. So when I was an undergraduate student at Northern Arizona University in Flagstaff, Arizona, a friend and classmate ended her own life with suicide. And we were classmates, and it really impacts you in a way, and this is many, many years ago. You can do the math. But one day you're working in an anatomy and physiology lab on a project, you're planning a party, a get-together amongst friends, then you get the call, and a few days later, you're attending a funeral. So I always remember Brenda. She was a Bachelor of Science in Nursing student. I was studying dietetics at the time. She was a regular student in most every way. She was a quieter individual, but had a good sense of humor. And she came from a very good family. Her father was the principal of the local high school, and she lived at home. So again, knowing her, you wouldn't see a lot of risk factors necessarily for suicide. But it sticks with you, and I know this is nothing in comparison to, clearly what your family has gone through, Sam. But you do have a certain bit of survivor guilt, and you think, did I miss something? Could I have said something? And that's always stayed with me, throughout the years. And I think when I first heard about the friendship benches, as Toby said, and we were so privileged to be the first post-secondary in the province to launch the program, and now to know that this is number 50, so then there's 51, 52. So this is so important, and it's sometimes these small gestures that mean the most. So from my university days, post-secondaries back then weren't as enlightened as they are now. And this is no critique of Northern Arizona University by any means. I think it was just state of the practice at the time. We weren't offered any counseling support. It was just like, it happened, you don't talk about it, you move on. So fast forward to my days at Saskatchewan Polytechnic, we did see more serious situations cropping up amongst students, employees, family members, and to even think about a student suicide, in the role such as provost and VP academic, that is your darkest day. It's literally like getting punched in the gut. And so when we got the first friendship bench, I remember saying to Toby, right, I said, this is awesome. Like, we've got to figure something out. We're got to scheme, and we're going to make sure that the other 3 campuses get the benches as well. So then, as some of you know, in February, I had been a business owner for quite a number of years, and so I sold my shares. And so that opened up some opportunities that wouldn't have been available to me previously. So of course, now Pam comes into the equation. I got the usual email from donor and alumni relations about the staff campaign. And I'm feeling in a particularly generous mood, and I'm thinking, we can do the friendship benches. But of course, in my role as provost, at that time, I made the very conscious decision, and Pam honored this, that it was to be an anonymous donation. Obviously, as provost, and I know many of you who know me, I have 3 kids, and as provost, you love all of your children equally, and I just didn't feel comfortable playing favorites, right? Besides, I knew that Jamie would soon be on my doorstep saying, hey, Ann, where's my piece of the action? But don't tell Jamie. But in any event, then things moved on. I made the decision to resign over the course of the summer. And then I thought, now the gift can be kind of a farewell gift. And I really struggled for quite a period of time, talked to different people. Do I just leave it as an anonymous gift, which is fine, nothing wrong with that, and many donors choose to do that? Or do I say, hey, it was me? So I did decide, after talking to a number of trusted advisors, when I met with Larry and said, hey, by the way, I'm leaving, and oh, by the way, I'm making this donation. But it's something I genuinely wanted to do, partly because we all have family members, friends, neighbors who are struggling. And this is vitally important. And this program has a certain simplicity around it. And it can be complemented by things like, the mental health first aid training from the Canadian Mental Health Association, the talented counselors, the work of the Student Association. And so it always, I thought, to speak up, even though it's kind of embarrassing, I don't know why, but I'll say it is, to be in a position to do this in an odd sort of way. But I think a lot of times as senior executives, it's easy for people to think, oh, she's just saying that, right? Like that's part of her speaking notes. That's just, she needs to say that. But I really wanted people to understand that for me, it's not a job title. It's not because it was in my job description. It's something that I think is vitally important. And that's why I wanted to make this happen. And so Larry knows I'm kind of a just do it kind of person. And so it really is a gift to the students and to the employees. And part of that whole broader wellness strategy that we know that mental health is so foundational, and that something as simple as saying hello. And I don't think it has to be complicated. One thing I've certainly realized over the years, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a counselor, I'm not a therapist. There are many professionals who have those skills, and we can point people in that direction, but we can all have those conversations. And something as simple as saying, how are you feeling? I've noticed you've been off lately. Is there anything that I can do to help? And so in thinking about today and tomorrow, I kind of thought when we're in it together, I think Sam described this community, this village that comes together. And for some reason, I just pictured kind of a waterfront or a lake where you just toss in a little pebble. And it's not much, but you can picture the calm, tranquil water, but then the ripple effect, right? And the ripple, and then the bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's just a multiplier effect. So I thought if all of us just do our little part and just toss in that little pebble, we have no idea what the ripple effect of that will be. So as I said, so great to see all of you here, and just a little bit about why I'm here, and it's a huge privilege, and all the best.
Thank you, Dr. Neufeld, Anne, for this very generous and clearly very meaningful gift. I'm grateful to be joined today by representatives from the Saskatchewan Polytechnic Students Association. A hello to Justin Squark, the president, who's joined us from Saskatoon and will follow us around the province again tomorrow. And now would like to invite Chirag Patel, Vice President of the Students Association, and in fact a student here in Moose Jaw, to join us for a few words.
Thank you, Toby. Sorry if you see me shaking, that's just nervousness, nothing else. So to go on about, for me to say that what's the stigma around there is to mental illness, I would speak from a student perspective, especially to say that, in my opinion anyway, stigma is more to do with where society doesn't accept it to be normal, to be spoken about. It's out and to see the bench out and about and open, anyone walking past by, and it's okay to speak about it, and it's not okay to not to speak about it. And go out and see the services, whether it be student that you speak to, whether it be any other peers. And I spoke to a few of the students sometimes back, and it's that they think that social media makes it harder compared to my generation, compared to the generation older than us, our parents for sure, that you have to portray that perfect life on social media everywhere to make sure that you live this very perfect life, and there is nothing wrong with your life, and you won't be able to speak about it, and there's a stigma attached to it, that you can't go out and speak and open about what's going on, where your life you're struggling, whether it be work, whether it's school. It's okay to send an email to any of your lecturers saying that you're sick and you won't be able to come in, or then rather than sending an email saying that, hey, I feel depressed today, or I'm going through some issues that might be I'm in position to depress. It's not acceptable as a society yet. And that's where the issues are. For students to commit a suicide, that would be taking a last resources to think that there is nothing else that they can do rather than committing suicide. And more to do with that, going back, it's saying that hello is big thing. We certainly don't want any other Lucas in the school. Let's take a place today in SAS Polytechnic that will prevent everything, will do everything in our power to make sure that doesn't happen any other Lucas story going forward from here. That we won't lose any other students' life going forward, and make sure that we have resources to provide them to come out and speak about the depression that they might be going through, or any other mental illness that they have, whether you're bipolar or anything. It's out to be spoken about, and not to portray that you have to go out and be perfect, social media. And some of them do say that in your generation, back in like some of the other people, my parents' generation, they didn't have to post things on social media. Like if I posted one picture, it's out there. It's haunting me any day. It's never going away. It's scary out there, and they say they have to make sure what the words you write, the political correctness that world is going through right now, to make sure what you speak. Sometimes you don't have a chance to even opinionate some of the things that you have about, some of the opinions you have about whether it be work or a school or anything, and that's hard to do it. And I see this is a significant step taken by SAS Polytechnic to break that ice for asking students to come out and speak if you have any issues that you're going through. And that should be it from me. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chirag. And I'd like to invite our last speaker of the afternoon to the podium, Dr. Larry Rosia, President and CEO of SAS Polytech, to bring greetings on behalf of Saskatchewan Polytechnic.
Thanks, Toby. Thank you, Toby. And what a great place to have this ceremony. It's a place that I can always find students as well. And whenever I come on campus, you probably know by now, I look for students. And this is one of the places I head to, first of all, either the cafeteria or this meeting space here. And there's always students gathered here. So kind of fitting that we have this ceremony here this afternoon as well. Tawau hau anin tanshi atlanite. And I too want to recognize that we are in Treaty 4 territory and homeland of the Métis people. And thank you all for joining us here for this very, very special event. And a special thank you to MLA Warren Mitchelson, who is always at our events, whether they're on campus, off campus, a really strong supporter of Saskatchewan Polytechnic. Thank you for being here. His Worship, Mayor Fraser Tulmy as well, thank you for being here. And here's a mayor that is also very supportive of Saskatchewan Polytechnic. In fact, he shows up at Regina events to support our institution. So it's pretty hard to find a greater mayor. Chirag and Justin, Chirag Patel and Justin Squark from our Student Association, thank you for being here. Sam Fiorella, and of course, Dr. Ann Neufeld. This past August, just before the start of the academic year, we always have a welcome back event. And a well-known broadcaster and mental health advocate, Michael Landsberg, spoke to Saskatchewan Polytechnic faculty and staff members about the stigma of mental health at our welcome back event in Regina and in Saskatoon at both cities. And shortly after speaking, Michael, who has about a little more than 20,000 followers, Twitter followers, sent out a tweet, and I'm going to paraphrase what he said, but quote, "Spoke in Regina and Saskatoon Tuesday and Wednesday. As always, I polled the audience. Rough estimates, 1,000 people. 500 thought I was arrogant when I hosted the TV show Off the Record. 250 say they have suffered from mental illness. 990 have been touched by mental illness through family or friends. And 950 were touched by suicide. Most of us, if not all of us, knows of someone who struggled with a mental health issue. For years, it's something, and Sam talked about it, and so did Ann, that people did not speak about, especially at events like we're having today. Thankfully, that curtain around the stigma of mental health is now being lifted. This is occurring because of events like the Friendship Bench presentation and the generosity and courage of people like Dr. Ann Neufeld and Sam Fiorella. At Saskatchewan Polytechnic, it's important for our students and our colleagues to have a safe place to study and a safe place to work. This is something that goes to the heart of our values at our institution, and that is respect. We believe in the importance of health and wellness supports to assist students and to assist our employees with maintaining healthy physical, emotional, and psychological balance and managing the ups and downs in life so that they can reach their full potential. This Lucas Fiorella Friendship Bench is a symbol of change that is possible. Change where mental health can be part of everyday conversations. Change that hopefully will lead to help those who are struggling with depression and thoughts of suicide. So on behalf of all of the students, all of the faculty and staff, I'd like to graciously thank the Annie's Friends Foundation, established by Dr. Ann Neufeld, our past former provost and VP academic. Ann has left a lot of marks on this institution, and this is another one. By promoting an open atmosphere and frank conversation, each of us can help those who need support to find it. So we thank you, Ann, for your generous donation, and Sam, know that your advocacy efforts are making a tremendous impact in Saskatchewan and across Canada. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Rosia. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. This bench will be permanently located in this area together with the donor recognition plaque that we saw a few moments ago. Before we end our program, I'd like to encourage everyone to take a moment to sit and breathe, talk, or think about your own mental health and of those around you. Together, we can inspire peer-to-peer conversations about mental health in order to reduce the stigma and encourage those in need to seek help. At Sask Polytech, we're working to do our part to promote mental health as an important wellness dimension and to provide resources for our students, faculty, and staff. In student services, we do this in close partnership with Human Resources. Betty Mutwiri is here on behalf of Terrence Carswell today, AVP Human Resources and co-chair of the Wellness Steering Committee. And we're working closely with the Saskatchewan Polytechnic Students Association on these initiatives as well. Continuing on from today's very important Yellow Bench event, we are one of over 200 post-secondary institutions across the country who are leading the mental health conversation this week with the Bell Let's Talk campaign. Tomorrow, here in Moose Jaw, the library will once again be hosting Therapy Dogs at noon. And at 3:30 tomorrow in the Macoun Lounge, the movie Silver Linings Playbook will be shown and a discussion on mental health will follow. Thought bubbles will be posted in the cafeteria on Wednesday as part of the Bell Let's Talk Day, and we invite you to participate in all of these activities and spread the word. And now I'd like to bring today's program to a close with a thank you to the dignitaries, students, faculty, and staff who have joined us today. Invite the dignitaries to join us for photographs in front of the bench, and otherwise invite you all to enjoy refreshments that are available for those who wish to stay and join in the conversations about mental health. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the afternoon. How do you remember all the names? Well, some of them are written down.